The ground that remembered. In 2018, in Sugar Land, Texas, a construction crew was digging the foundation for a new elementary school. Everything was routine until the machine stopped, because just a few feet beneath the surface, they hit bone. At first, it looked like one burial, then two, then dozens, until archaeologists realized what they were standing over wasn't a grave, it was a cemetery. 95 individuals, all men, buried without markers, without names, and for over a century, no one living even knew they were there. But the most disturbing part wasn't just what was found, it was where it was found. A suburban neighborhood, built on land that was supposed to be fully known, fully mapped, fully understood. It wasn't. So the first question wasn't who were they, it was simpler. How does an entire cemetery disappear? No records, no markers, no public memory. Just silence. And yet, the burials weren't chaotic. They were organized. Rows, spacing, patterns. Which means someone didn't just bury them, someone made sure they stayed buried. As archaeologists examined the remains, the story shifted, because the bones weren't just old, they were worn, compressed spines, healed fractures, joint damage from repetitive strain, signs of chronic malnutrition. These weren't people who died suddenly. These were people worn down over time. And then something harder to ignore. Some bones showed trauma consistent with punishment. Not accident, not disease, punishment. And at that point, the mystery changes. Because now we're not just asking who they were, we're asking what kind of system produces bodies like this. The next part is a reconstruction based on documented conditions from Texas prison labor systems in the late 1800s. Imagine this. It's before sunrise, you're already awake, not because you want to be, because there is no choice in sleeping late. Your ankles ache before you even stand. Breakfast is thin, quiet, no one talks much anymore. A guard counts you out, not by name, sometimes not even by number, just presence. You walk into fields of sugarcane so tall it disappears into the horizon. The blades cut your skin every time you move. The heat builds early and doesn't leave. You swing and swing. Stopping isn't allowed here. And if someone falls behind, they don't disappear quietly. They are replaced. This is not an isolated moment in time. This was a system, and it had a name. After the Civil War, slavery was officially abolished in the United States. But the 13th Amendment included a clause that changed everything. Slavery was illegal, except as punishment for crime. So laws shifted. New offenses appeared. Old ones expanded, and arrest rates surged, especially among Black Americans in the South. Then came convict leasing. Prisoners were leased out to plantations, farms, and companies for labor, for profit, for extraction. And Sugar Land was part of that system. A network of prison farms and plantations across Fort Bend County used forced convict labor to harvest sugarcane at scale. What was discovered in 2018 was not an anomaly. It was evidence of that system. In 2018, archaeologists confirmed the remains of 95 individuals, now known as the Sugar Land 95. All men, most of them African American. All buried without markers, all tied to the prison labor system that once operated across this region. And for many of them, this was the first time their existence had been publicly acknowledged in over 100 years. Not as labor, not as property, but as human beings. But even as Sugarland 95 were studied, a larger realization emerged. This site may not have been the only one. Across Fort Bend County, along corridors like Highway 99 and the expanding Grand Parkway, construction, surveying have encountered additional historical indicators tied to older burial landscapes, soil disturbances, fragmented remains, unmarked ground anomalies consistent with forgotten cemeteries. Not all of these sites are confirmed as part of the same burial ground, but together they suggest something larger. Because the prison farm didn't operate in one place. It stretched across thousands of acres, interconnected sites, multiple camps, multiple plantations, multiple lives. Which leads to a question no one can fully answer yet. Was the Sugarland 95 cemetery the only one? Or just the first one we happen to find? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. It wasn't discovered through history books. It was discovered through construction, through digging, through accident. Which means something important is still true today. We are not looking at a fully complete record. We are looking at fragments of it. Today, Sugarland looks nothing like its past. Homes, schools, highways, a city built for movement, for progress, for forgetting. But land doesn't forget the way people do. It layers, it holds, it waits. The Sugarland 95 were eventually reinterred with care. Efforts continued to identify descendants, to restore names where there were none. But the deeper truth remains unresolved, not just historically, but geographically. Because beneath what we see as modern development, there are still gaps in the record, still unanswered questions, still places no one has fully examined. And that brings us to the final question. Not just for historians, but for anyone standing on the ground today. How much of the past is still beneath us, waiting for the next time someone starts digging? We spend so much time asking whether places are haunted. Maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe the better question is what stories are still waiting beneath our feet. The ground remembered, even when we didn't.
That was awesome.